Having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. Ill Rushmore with half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair, do it every day. You know, folks, I was at dinner last night, and I was telling some people about the Chris Cuomo quote that I played earlier in the week, and they didn't believe me. They said, Rush, surely you misunderstood that. No, I didn't. So I want you to hear this again. This is Chris Cuomo. He is the son of Mario the Pious, as you know, and he is a member of the media now. He's a morning show host over at CNN. His show's called New Day. And on Monday, everybody's celebrating Obama's trip to Cuba. And Allison Camerata notices a shirt that Chris Cuomo's wearing. She says, Chris, we can't help but notice your shirt here. Tell us the history of that shirt. Now listen carefully, because in this soundbite is what Chris Cuomo thinks communism is.
My guayabera? This shirt belonged to my father. It was given to him by Fidel Castro. It marked conversations going on decades ago that were the same as those today. The concern was the freedom of the people. What is the point of this communist regime if it is not to truly make everyone equal, not at the lowest level, not by demoralizing everyone, but lifting everyone up? My father, generations of politicians have been fighting this, so I wear this shirt as a reminder of that.
You know, that was one of the most teachable moments I've ever had. All my life, I have been asking myself why so many leftists are supportive of communism when everybody knows, I thought everybody knows, communism kills. Communism denies liberty and freedom. Communism equals poverty. Communism equals political prisons. Communism builds walls to keep people in because everybody wants to leave. And in that context, I've always said, how come so many, most of them in the media, and many in the Democrat, why do they wax so eloquently of communism? What was it about Gorbachev and Cuba and Che Guevara? And then it all became clear when Chris Cuomo defined it. He has been taught, what's the point of this 50-year regime down there, he said, if it's not to make everybody equal? By lifting everybody up. My father's been fighting this for 50 years. So these people are waiting for the great communist payoff of upward mobility, liberty and freedom, and wealth for everybody. Well, it's no wonder. Anyway, Anyway, great to have you back here, folks. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. I'm not kidding. This Chris Cuomo soundbite. I was at dinner last night with some friends, and I couldn't, even when I quoted him accurately, verbatim, and I didn't. Well, maybe they just didn't think it was that big a deal. As somebody who came of age, if you will, in this entire arena of politics, with anti-communism being one of the animating aspects of my political education, because it was the antithesis of freedom and liberty, and it shaped the world of my parents and grandparents. My grandparents, when Nikita Khrushchev shows up at the UN and pounds his shoe and says, "We will bury you, we will do whatever to your grandchildren," they had no choice but then to believe it. They took the threat seriously. So my political education, if you will, was focused on the evils of communism and the failures worldwide. And during this entire period, as I would grow older and become even more informed about it, more educated, I couldn't escape seeing your average news anchor here or news reporter or New York Times writer just speak and write fawningly of individual communists, leaders, practitioners, countries, and so forth. It never made any sense. It's how, knowing what I knew about communism, how in the world can these people not see the inherent evil? And in fact, as journalists, what is it that made them oblivious to the fact that if we ever did fall prey to communists, they'd be the first people put in jail? They'd be the first people shut up. There is no such thing as freedom of the press. It's state-run media here, state-run media there, which Many would argue we already have here. Lighthearted way. But then I heard this Chris Cuomo, who I say grew up in the home of Mario Cuomo and was surrounded by liberal Democrats his whole life. And look what he thinks communism is. That Cuba is still in the middle of its 50-year struggle to make everybody equal. Not at the lowest level, not by demoralizing everybody, but lifting everybody up. In whose world is that what communism is? Well, obviously, in a lot of liberals' minds, that's what it is. Communism is about equality and prosperity and happiness and no competition, and everybody's the same. So communism is the road or the route to utopia. It has to be. And all these years, I thought I've been up against people who knew what it was, but for some reason didn't want to believe it. I didn't know until Monday of this week that I was up against people who don't even know what it is. They have a totally skewed definition of it, who think it is vastly superior to capitalism in the United States because it holds so much more promise, you see. There's no poverty in communism if it's done right. There's no suffering in communism if it's done right. And they're all waiting for that. At some point, it's going to pay off. It hasn't ever in the world anywhere, but the promise is there. I guess if you've been taught that, that's all you know. Anyway, it was just an eye-opening thing for me. I don't mean to beat a dead horse with it, but I think it's so instructive in informing us what these people think about other domestic political issues in this country. Why they so hate capitalism, why they so love big government, why they so love command and control economies. It's all there. Communism is utopia, communism. And they're just waiting for the right. What is we are the ones we've been waiting for? Obama's slogan. What does it mean? We're the guys. They're finally going to make it happen. And of course, it can't work. Intellectually, economically, it's impossible. And the evidence is all over the world, and yet that's denied because the hope and the desire overwhelms the real.